Okay. So, greetings, everyone. My name is Elizabeth Lewis. I am the COFEM consultant, and thank you all for joining us. So, I hope that today it won't just be me speaking, but folks will, participate and introduce yourselves and share in the questions that I have. So, just as we get started, a little bit about my background and who I am. I identify as Haitian American based in Boston, Massachusetts, in the United States. And I'm a psychologist. And I've been involved with COFEM for the past, a few years on working on wellness, anything related to wellness. I currently work at Harvard Medical School, and then I do therapy for women and children and adults and people all over. And my focus is trauma as well. And I'm also a researcher that looks at global mental health and how different countries and people understand and practice mental health and how that occurs for them spiritually or emotionally, physically. So that's a little bit about myself. Um, so if folks can introduce yourself in terms of where you're from, what type of work that you do, and also what types of roles that you play. So I think for me, the hat that I'm wearing today is a practitioner and then also as a researcher. So I hope that this learning brief will be informative for you. So as we get started, if folks can just share a little bit about, given that you know what the topic is about, do you have any particular feelings or questions or things that you're hoping to gain, just so that I'm aware and I can make sure I emphasize? So just want to take a moment just to see what's coming up for people, any particular feelings, questions, or comments before we get started on the topic. Okay. If there isn't any, then feel free to share as things come to mind. So I think because I want this to be interactive, I'm just gonna sort of walk through the learning brief. I believe I will try to find a copy of it to make sure that you all have access to it. But okay, here is the access. I believe if you look on, just so that you have it for yourself, here is the link. So you can follow along with me. And then here is the, oh, which link did I do? Okay, okay. So these are the links that you can use to um, just follow along with me. It's the same link. Okay. Okay. Okay, so hopefully, yeah, folks can, engage in this interaction. So let me just share my screen. One moment. So, okay, hopefully everyone can see the screen. So, part of the vision that I had for creating this learning brief is that I wanted to tailor it to both practitioners and researchers because I feel that sometimes there's not enough spotlight or emphasis on making sure that we're also taking care of feminists of different roles. And sometimes we carry one role or both roles or multiple roles. So this brief it's not to say that this is the only way to think about wellness, but this sort of gives you a guidance from different perspectives on when we're thinking about promoting wellness. What does that mean for us? Uh, so, so the executive summary, which I just want to highlight, it really sort of talks about us as researchers and practitioners, how it is important for us to make sure that we are, especially as we're doing this work in the different spaces that we're part of, that we don't forget to address mental health and emotional needs that we have, especially when we may experience different types of challenges, and I'll talk a little bit more about some signs that may demonstrate that checking a little bit more on your wellness, especially if you're experiencing burnout or compassion fatigue or vicarious trauma, especially as we work in many different spaces. It's important uh, to take pauses and to take care of ourselves. And part of this learning brief too, I hope when you get a chance, I do want to amplify our co-member, COFEM member, Marie Simone as well, who created the Joyful Self-Care Toolkit, which really also gives you, I believe, is a great supplement to this learning brief, where you get to really get into particular exercises as well. So, the key things to learn about for this learning brief is that we hope that you'll take the takeaway points, or that you'll be able to embrace more wellness and think about it in a more radical sort of resilience, liberation sort of framework. And then also recognize that there are different types of experiences that exist, such as vicarious trauma, and being able to find it, use the term or a name for it is important. And then also recognizing that in order for us to continue to do feminist work, engage in policies, and work in systems, we cannot forget about self-care, but also collective care. If I'm not doing well, that should be a concern to you. If you're not doing well, we all should be concerned as well. So, just walking through the learning brief itself, for the next part is just an introduction, and it sort of just walks through about a little bit background that I believe that you all are a little bit more familiar with about the challenges that researchers and practitioners face. But we hope that this learning brief will give you more of a picture about um, unpacking what feminist political framing, and I'll go more into that. And then also getting a chance to reflect on your own self-care, but also collective care in the communities or the workplaces that you are part of. And then touching base on what vicarious trauma is, and then encouraging some discussion and dissecting a little bit more about how do we move forward while also having some highlights. If there are any questions as I go through this, please feel free to put in the chat or come off mute. And once again, Audre Lorde reminds us that caring for ourselves is not self-indulgence. It is self-preservation, and it's an act of political warfare. As you can recognize with ongoing global challenges and situations, systems, and erasure of different feminist policies, we are definitely in complex, challenging times, for lack of a better words. And it is important for us to think more radically, I believe, especially in trying to promote more resistance and resilience, as well as we continue to understand and unpack the intersections of gender and wellness. So with this particular part of the learning brief, it goes into more details about thinking about intersection, but also thinking about intersection, for example, of privilege and care within the capitalist hetero patriarchy system as well, that many of us live in, or the people that we serve, the women and girls and folks in just diverse gender identities also experience as well. So I hope that you get a chance to, read this a little bit more. So once again, just sort of walking you through the learning brief as well. And and then also when we're thinking about intersection, I know that there's different definitions of intersection, but I do hope that you will think about intersection in terms of what it means for you, and also within your context. What can be intersectional for me may not be as intersectional for yourself. So I know for me, being a Black woman in America, race is very important to me, but I recognize in other cultures it may be more ethnicity, it may be a caste system, it might be age, it might be different other sort of factors. So I do encourage you to think more critically as well about what is intersections, especially when we're thinking about gender and wellness. what does that mean? And also cultural nuances of wellness. I know for me in my Haitian culture, wellness for a woman means that you bear children. And that means that you are you have wellness. While for other cultures, it might be a little bit different. And then how do we sort of challenge those sort of nuances, or how do we manage them when there are different messages that we get? Any questions so far from what I've shared in regards to purpose of the learning brief and intersections of gender and wellness so far? Okay, I'll continue. I do have questions coming up, so do sit tight. So, another important component of oh, I don't know if I see a question. Okay, very interesting. Okay, thank you. So once again, if folks are joining in, please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat and let me know if you have any questions and raise your hands or come off mute. Another important part of this wellness brief is what we sort of term, or the concept that we're using is the feminist political framing of wellness. As you know, that when we think about wellness, mental health, or self-care, there's like so many buzzwords or things on. I'm not into social media too much, but I think there's things on TikTok, and people are doing a lot of different things to promote what wellness can look like. And oftentimes it could be very capitalistic, it could be very expensive to, do a lot of things, whether buying beauty products, or if there's certain things, certain foods or meals you're supposed to eat, to take care of yourself. But I think it's very important, when we're thinking about reframing wellness, is using it from a political standpoint, a feminist political framing that centers wellness around dignity, respect, and also holistic security of women and girls at the intersection of social, spiritual, environmental, mental, emotional, and physical and financial well-being. So thinking about it from a context outside of your usual, when wellness has been sort of portrayed, is thinking about it, okay, how about your mental health? But how can you have, mental health or emotional wellness when maybe financially or even your sense of security is constantly at risk? So in thinking about that, I believe that the feminist political framing of wellness expands it a bit more. So I do want to take the time to, if you look at this particular image here, thinking about wellness, we contributed to thinking about it in terms of mental, spiritual, emotional, social, environmental, and physical. So when we think about mental, thinking about your thoughts, what are you being exposed to? What types of messages are you being exposed to on a daily basis, or when you're doing feminist work? Spiritual, do you have a particular spiritual belief, whether it's tied to rituals or religion or ancestral sort of ways of knowing things? How does that impact your own sense of self and how you do your work as well? And an emotional, so thinking about your emotions, your feelings, your mood, how does that, what about your emotions that encourages you to do this work, or that you, when you feel that, okay, I'm a little bit tired or burnt out from these, from the experiences that I have? And in social wellness, do you have a support group? Do you have a group of friends or a chosen community or chosen family where you can go to be your authentic self? Environmental. Is your environment a place where you feel that you can thrive, that you have wellness? And in physical, are you engaging in physical activities? Because it's also part of your, in order to keep your body moving or being able to attend to the needs of your physical body as well. So I just want to take a moment to see if there are any parts of this graph that resonates with folks, and if you can write in the chat or come off mute, because I'm really interested to see if folks have thought about wellness in this way and in the ways that they feel that they practice wellness, or or areas that they feel that they need to work on wellness in these categories. So I'll take a moment to hear from others or see if there's anything in the chat. I don't know if people are shy or if you. Okay, so Maya and then Grace.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Elizabeth, for such an amazing work. I cannot wait to read it all. And yes, the social wellness is what connected with me deeply. By the way, I'm Maya from Mexico,
Okay.
and yeah, the social makes me think through about how it is not necessarily connected to what we can control or what we can do, but it's interconnected to justice. It's really connected to what's available for us out there. And yeah, you just made me think about that. And I wonder if there's more about the concept of justice within these findings, or just I just wanted to put it out there as it's important for well-being, having justice. Thank you.
Yes, yes, definitely. There are concepts of justice, like, yeah, throughout the learning brief itself. But I do agree with you that even when we're thinking about social wellness, that justice is a major part of it because there's been, yeah, for generations and decades, there's been movements, and these feminist movements have all been a focus on justice and different aspects of justice, from rights to removing policies that um, are not relevant for women and their experiences in different settings. So when we're thinking about, I feel that with justice, I think about the justice within the social wellness component in terms of that. How are we, how are we practicing that? So if you were to think about social justice, how are we practicing that? Is that more so we're doing it in our communities? Are we doing it on social media? Are we signing petitions? Are we protesting? But then also I feel that even as we pursue social justice as a form of wellness, we have to also we also, I think it's important even to take it a step further about as we are trying to achieve social justice in a wellness framework, what are the principles of that? And I'm not even sure if we, principles of that in terms of like, okay, we're protesting, we're advocating, we're engaging social justice work, but then what are the principles of maintaining wellness within that type of action-oriented stance that we're taking as well? Does that mean that we have a WhatsApp group where after we have engage in some justice particular activities that we're checking in on everyone? Um, are there civil societies or organizations that not just promote social justice, but then also give opportunities for self-care after that particular activity? Or are there stipends to enjoy a spa days, or are there stipends to, just treat yourself to something? So I think it's being able to go further as well. I don't know if you have any thoughts about some of that, or how do we make sure that as we're, trying to achieve social justice, but then also what does wellness look like as well?
Sure, thank you. You just made me think about many other things, and thinking about how to say no, for instance, and sending boundaries within our colleagues, family members, friends, and
Hmm.
these little but not so little actions in our everyday lives to really maintain our wellness within the environment in the context where we are. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, no, thank you. And I think there was another hand. I don't know if it was Hilda or.
Yes, it was
Oh,
Grace.
great. Sorry.
Yes, and I'm here. Good morning and good afternoon to everyone. I'm Grace Ruanga from Uganda. I'm a feminist who has been in the field of ending violence against women for the last 24 years. So for me, all of them stand out for me, all the aspects, but I think the one that I've reflected about is the emotional.
Mm,
Because in this whole work of ending violence against women and girls, whether prevention, whether advocacy, whether response, emotions stand out as key. And whether you have a scientific methodology you are using, whether it's anecdotal, whether your support is personal, for me,
hmm
emotions stand out. To both me, the responder or service provider, and to the survivor. So I was just reflecting. I'm like, whether the emotion is positive to me, maybe it could
hmm
be negative to the survivor I'm supporting, or even to the institution I'm giving support, because maybe they do not resonate with what I'm putting to table. But also sometimes I was like, okay, the emotion could be positive to me, my survivor, but what of the duty bearers? So I was like, emotion cut across all the ecological model from individuals, institutions, groups of people. But at the end of the day, emotions have helped people, in my own thinking, do good and bad things, negativity and positivity.
hmm
However, when self-care is promoted, like for myself, even when I've lost a judgment at work, my survivor has lost a judgment, I'm like, okay, what good is out of this? And
hmm
normally, if you don't embrace self or collective care, you can't go through all these many challenges. So, in one way or the other, doing this work, we have to manage the emotions, but we can't just manage them. We have to prioritize the whole notion of self and collective care. And for me, sometimes this has helped me, especially when I'm very bitter because a certain duty bearer, because someone has really mistreated a partner, maybe even the partner is my friend, what? So I'm like, okay, I think for me, emotions really it stands out and is very key to me. Thank you so much.
Okay. No, no, thank you for sharing. Yeah, I think you raise many different elements. And I think for me as a psychologist, um, I think especially when women or those who are survivors of gender-based violence come to me, in my work with them, trying to achieve emotional wellness does not mean that there's the absence of negative emotions. So I think too, when we're thinking about emotional wellness, this doesn't mean that, okay, I'm never going to be sad anymore, or, but it's how to sit with, the doubts, how to sit with the shame, how to sit with the sadness, but then also accompanying that person, as you said, collective wellness, like because you hurt, I hurt as well. Of course, I can never understand your experience, especially if I haven't, no one can walk into each person's shoe. Everyone, has their own set of journey and path to take. But I think in terms of thinking about emotional wellness is being able to work with the survivor or using the language, because even some people don't even recognize, like, I'm a survivor, maybe victim or another term for them, or something that's really more local for them in their own language. But I try to be mindful about what is the emotional wellness that we are trying to achieve? What is my own perspective of emotional wellness? And then with that perspective, I share, hey, this is the place that I'm coming from. When you share this with me, this is what came up for me. How about for you? And then also working with the person to recognize that emotional wellness for them might be, hey, Elizabeth, like I stopped thinking about my perpetrator one day less this week. And maybe they're on that path of emotional wellness. but emotional wellness looks different for every person depending on what are the circumstances, the factors, and what stage in their recovery and healing that they are. But in also recognizing that emotional wellness, we also have to do some critical check-ins and consider things for ourselves because sometimes we have to also reset our ideas of emotional wellness. What was emotional wellness to you in your 20s versus your 30s versus on, in the time period of your life, it can change as well, and also to have grace with that. So I think when we're thinking about emotional wellness, really thinking about what does it mean? And then also how does the emotional wellness that you think the values um that that contributes to that is also follows feminist principles. And then also I think for me and my work with in gender-based violence as well is that what I believe are feminist principles. Um, Maybe the person that I work with don't have those same ideas, but it doesn't mean that I have to sort of, try to convert them, say, hey, this is what feminists do, or this is what you're supposed to be thinking or doing. So I think it's being able to have grace and flexibility, and especially if we are committed to feminist principles, guiding us to have emotional wellness, then I think we'll be at a better place. But recognizing that sometimes we have to also reset what emotional wellness means for us and also the people that the populations that we serve. Yeah, great conversation. Anyone else or questions or okay. So let me continue with the learning brief. Um, so yeah, so I do hope that as I'm walking through the learning brief that folks will get a chance to really, think through about these different once again aspects that I believe contributes to our wellness. And then also what's not, here directly is also financial wellness as well, which I think sometimes it might be awkward or weird to talk about that, but being able to provide for yourself or have basic needs met or being able to I'm sure we wish we had endless funds to help as many women and children and girls and all, and, especially who are experiencing gender-based violence, but we all have limitations and capacities. But what does financial wellness look like as well? And be mindful of that, because that might be true for a survivor, that they do want to get into a place where they're financially more stable or independent, and not to dismiss that as well. Um, so, um, so just moving along a little bit, uh, so after sort of presenting a little bit more about this, the different ways to think about wellness, within the learning brief itself, uh, there I go in to talk a little bit more about the difficulties in prioritizing our wellness. I would love to hear from people what makes it difficult to prioritize your wellness when doing feminist work, justice work, healing work, research, or practicing and healing sort of modalities. What are some things that makes it difficult for you to prioritize your wellness? Why is it? Is it because you forget about it or you don't have time or what's going on for folks? You can feel free to come off mute. Okay, I guess everyone has achieved wellness. There's no difficulties. Okay. I want to be like you all. Well, as folks continue to think about it, mhm.
Hi, Elizabeth. This is Jen.
Yes.
Sorry, that was fun. I like your comment. Um, well, you were just speaking about financial wellness, and I think that is commonly a barrier um, to emotional wellness and prioritizing wellness in general. Is that sometimes it requires um, some finances to make that a reality. like
Hmm.
therapy or whatever else. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, definitely that can be a barrier, especially if you recognize what types of forms of wellness can be helpful for you, like maybe yoga or certain things or therapy, but then it can be expensive. I do know that sometimes there are some, if you have access, also the consideration of access, that sometimes you can find things online or things that you can download offline to help. But financial barriers can definitely be that. Thank you for sharing. Valentina?
Thank you. Hi. Apologize in advance. Is my English sometimes I don't find certain words, but um, I think one of the biggest challenges that I've seen in my compañeras, uh, my sisters, and myself is the economic part for sure. It's a big deal, and nowadays that there is a big crisis on finding jobs and everything, which the ones that we depend on international development institutions and so on is a big thing. So there is an work overload on trying to find those, and so there is a constant exhaustion then in daily life, dealing with
Mhm.
daily life and the
Mhm.
violence against women and girls in daily life in our regions, plus finding that economic stability and supporting our struggles, right? That's one. But as a psychologist myself, also I find in myself a constant cyclical exhaustion that doesn't allow me, for example, in the morning, I say, okay, I have to wake up and do something, but then I get caught in that I'm too exhausted to look
Mhm.
out for wellness, right? So I've been always asking myself how to also lead other people in disrupting that endless cycle. And the problem is that the social cohesion is so, we are lacking of it more and more. Then these collective initiatives also become sometimes the attempt overwhelming. I'm part of a network and we try to do that, but even just participating in these
Mhm.
spaces sometimes become overwhelming. So I don't know.
Mhm.
It's just I think too many factors at the same time and how to disrupt it.
Yep. Thank you for sharing. Do others relate to what Valentina just shared? The challenges of disrupting and
100%. Thank you, Valentina. That was very poignant and well put.
anyone else? See, Grace gave a thumbs up. Yeah, Valentina, I think you raised some great points in terms of nice to meet another psychologist as well. Um, but you raised some great points in terms of with our day to day, like I can't even imagine what everyone's day to day looks like and being able to disrupt that in terms of, okay, I'm gonna take a few minutes in the morning before I get started, or trying to prioritize when there's so many other competing things outside of work, family, and other commitments. And I think part of the difficulties too is that I think in certain societies as well, like I know I can speak for like American society, it's like you have to always be doing something or checking your email or something like that. So you're like, no, I don't have time to, sometimes I feel, awful to just take a moment to go to the gym, or to go for a run. But I hope that as we continue to have discussions to while I do, validate your experience and do can understand what the difficulties are in prioritizing your wellness, but I also encourage you too to think about if you don't disrupt it, who will disrupt it? so if you don't disrupt it, then who will disrupt it for you? And I think part of that disruption in our day-to-day and in the different multiple responsibilities is that we have to be more aggressive or more committed to our own wellness, because if we don't disrupt it, then other sort of emotional, mental, physical health or other issues may come up, and then that will make us say, okay, we got to pause, but it shouldn't have to take us to get sick or to be hospitalized or to have a near death experience to say, okay, I need to actually, despite how difficult it is, but I need to actually make time for that as well. So I just want to share that a little bit. And as I move on as well, I think it's important to really, and when you're reading this learning brief, to think about, yeah, what are some difficulties? What are some excuses have you been making? What are some really hard choices that you have to make in order to prioritize your wellness? And also, when it comes to prioritizing your wellness, it doesn't mean that it's all going to be every day. Like I don't do that I don't, I think yeah, I don't think I prioritize. There's different, once again, it's like, what does wellness mean for you? So I know for me, part of my wellness is that if I'm able to eat and sleep decently, I have achieved something. But then there's different sort of categories and phases of my wellness. Because while sleep and eating is fine, it gets me going, but then that doesn't prevent me from burning out. So then I know I need to prioritize, okay, Elizabeth, you need to every Friday go for a walk during your lunch break just to get us, some fresh air. And it's not fresh air, oh, because I'm going to the market, or fresh air because I'm going to a friend's, helping a friend out. But it's like a un uninterrupted time of fresh air. So I think even when we're thinking about that is as we think about difficulties in prioritizing our wellness. Yes, see a hand raise. Yep, go ahead.
Uh, Hello, hi. My name is Widad Ibrahim. I'm Egyptian and I live in Iraq, working on sexualized and gender-based violence here with ISIS survivors and with local organizations here in the country. I think one of the main things that I can say about this is that wellness is not part of our priorities in my culture, for example.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of the major issues. But there is also another part, that the current situation now in the world, the current happenings around us are not really supporting us to be well. Whatever is happening around us in the world, I think I had something that I really experienced personally. I'm a trauma survivor. I'm a survivor myself. Okay. And with what's happening in Palestine, for example, in Gaza, it made me feel, because there were some feminists, many, many feminists, including very close to me, who really felt that they are that there is something that's not clear about what's happening, so they cannot really decide which side to take. And I felt at some point that wellness for me meant that I stand up for myself. And if I'm
Mm-hmm.
not able to stand up for myself against um, the power dynamics that say that white people and white feminists are actually the ones who are going to decide who deserves justice and who doesn't, it made me feel, it really hurt me a lot when I wasn't able to stand up for myself or speak about it. So when I spoke about it, when I stood up, it helped me a little bit. But still, it wasn't enough because it never ended. Like whatever I did and whatever I said,
Mm-hmm.
not really contribute to stopping all the bad things that were happening. You know, it continues to happen until this very second. Kids are continuing to die, kids are continuing. How can I go on my daily normal life with all of these things happening around me? You know, I feel ashamed of myself sometimes when I don't think about it. I choose not to read about these things anymore in the news because when I read about how many children died, or how many children lost limbs, or how many children were orphaned, or how many women were killed, and the situation, the humanitarian situation that has reached, like, it's man-made and not human-made. It's man-made, men on top of this world making decisions of who deserves to live and who deserves to die. When I
Hmm.
see when it's one soldier, for example, an Israeli soldier dies, and then their names, their families, their place of birth, everything is honored. And then Trump comes out and says, oh, he killed 70,000 of those people, as if they don't mean anything, you know? So it's really hurting me a lot. And I felt so many times, I felt ashamed of myself if I don't speak up, if I don't talk about it, if I don't really. And it hurt my well-being more when I wasn't able to do that. When I did it, it helped me a little bit. And sometimes I chose not to get into this because for example, I had other happenings in my life. So I chose to get away from this scene for a little bit. But still, it makes me feel ashamed that I'm not able to do more. And I currently say that it is for the white people to stand up. Because people like me, when they stand up, we don't mean anything. Our word is meaningless and we're not precious enough, you know? But white people, white blonde people, they go and they protest. Their words have meaning, but mine don't. So understanding I really liked what you presented about the political framework, the feminist politics or the feminist political framework to well-being. It really touched me in that sense. And it touched me like what does feminism mean? You know? What does it mean to us now? What does it mean to all of these people here in the meeting? For us, it means different things. And for me right now, it's very clear for me, but it might not be clear for others, you know? So thank you. And apologies
No,
for
no,
the
no, no,
venture.
no. Thank you. Thank you. I think thank you for sharing. I think it resonated with a few folks here. And I think you raised yeah, there's so many different aspects of what you shared, that I feel like we could have our own sort of part two of this. But I think some of the things the elements is that uh, yeah, throughout the world, there are different atrocities that are happening, ones that we know of, ones that we're not aware of, and I think it's very challenging day by day to recognize how much do we pay attention, how much do we stay connected, how much do we try to support those atrocities while also taking care of ourselves. It's like I don't know. I don't even know if the word balance exists because it's like, how do you balance, the wellness of your life when the wellness of others are not being honored? So I think yeah, I don't even know if the word balance even, is appropriate. And I think too, at the same time, at least from my, limited understanding, is that we we can hold both as well. Like our lives matter, their lives matter as well. And I think for me, when there has been atrocities that especially I'm aware of, or my family members or friends are in those spaces, I allocate time to check in, but I know I can check in every day because if I do that, then I won't be able to function to do therapy work with survivors of trauma because I'm hearing trauma every day. So so when I do my check-ins, it's usually towards the end of the week when I have a buffer of a weekend to go through the motions of feeling shame, feeling guilt, feeling, emotional, but then also feeling still inspired to still have hope that there will be better days. So I don't know, for me, that is what I do. And I know this is just my own framing. And I think too, to the testament of the political framing of wellness, it has to be radical. Like wellness cannot be, because it's not a cookie cutter. I'm in my room in Boston while someone else is in, a war torn, in other situations. And we really have to think radically. And then also, what are our asks for ourselves? What are our asks for our donors? What are our asks for our partners? What are the asks of our communities to collectively have a radical understanding and framing of wellness from a political standpoint, especially with all the political nuances at various levels across the world. I don't know if anyone had anything to share around that or okay. But yeah, but sending, yeah, you flowers where to everyone wherever you are, because that's it's very challenging. It's very challenging. I know that we are almost at time. So just a few things that I would like to just browse a little bit and then just give a few minutes for questions. So part of this learning brief as well is that we do share a little bit about just certain triggers. So when you have a little bit more time, just to learn more about what vicarious trauma looks like and the signs, especially mentally and emotionally. So whether that's you find yourself, oh, I'm a little bit irritable, or I'm burnt out, or am I being re-traumatized? I know for Black women in my community, we develop fibroids and have some yeah, reproductive health issues because of stress and other forms of prejudice that we experience in this country. And then also paying attention to compassion fatigue. We all have our limits, so sometimes we have exhaustion from the amount of empathy that we are, providing to those we serve. And then also vicarious trauma, which can be indirect exposure. So if you're listening or engaging with people who are survivors of their own traumas, that can also have an effect on you. And I think that's something to be able to be aware of as well. So I do encourage you all to take a read at this section as well to see if it resonates with you or if there's another term that you have that really resonates with you as well. And then just moving forward to this section, just sort of talking about a little bit more about the importance of wellness for us as researchers and practitioners, and then also sort of encouraging folks to really take that a little bit more seriously and then thinking about a little bit about approaches. So I know that for some of us, we have access to capitalist, ways of wellness, but for those and for everyone else, thinking about ways to tap into your own cultural, spiritual practices as well of wellness. Maybe for some people to help them with their wellness is drinking a certain amount, certain teas. Some people might be dancing. Some people might be looking at the stars, taking moments to enjoy nature. So I do want you to also think about outside of the box, besides what the media or society, or even if your culture doesn't have wellness as a term or doesn't prioritize it, it doesn't mean that you are not deserving of that and finding what resonates with you. And I know for me, when I try to figure out what was the wellness, I try to think about what did I like? What do I like? What relaxes me? I know being near the sounds of the ocean relaxes me. And that's part of my wellness that I try to find a lake or something nearby just to walk around or to meditate. So I do encourage you to think about, alternative practices that is not outside of yoga, outside of going to the gym, or what else can it be? And then as we close too, just part of the learning brief talks about systems and policies. And I think this could be even a further call for action about recognizing what policies in your workspaces, your organizations that needs to be revised to really think about wellness. Because in order to do our collective care, we have to be able to see what are some policies, rules, laws that are guiding certain guidance around wellness or even your own health and well-being as well. And then lastly, as we come to a close, it also talks about the importance of uh, questioning and also confronting our donors and the organizations that we are a part of, whether work or advocacy, and also understand what is their framework of wellness as well. Is it practical? Is it realistic? Is it radical? Does it look from a political and practical, standpoint? And that may mean that we have to um, come at this a little bit more collectively and also maybe identify which funders or which groups or donors that really coincide with the wellness that we hope to achieve. So I think in conclusion, as we're thinking about this, these are some resources that I hope that you can just click on. And if you just want some readings or some examples of what wellness can look like and adapt them, these are some great resources. But I do hope that in all, that we can join in solidarity for us to, continue on our journey of wellness, whether we have to reset, confront ourselves and others, but we do have a right to self-care, to collective care. And I do hope that you all have gained a new set of thoughts or perspectives or takeaways so that you can adapt this in your life or even consider this in the spaces that you're a part of. So, with that, I will just leave a few moments for any questions or comments as we close in the last 5 minutes. So, and I'll put the wellness brief in the chat again. But feel free to email me if you have any questions or you want to talk about it more. I love talking about this. So you can feel free to email me as well. I'll put my any comments or questions? Oh, it did not go right. Okay. Yeah, yeah, we definitely should have a virtual coffee. We can definitely do that. Yeah, but did anything in particular resonate with folks or anything that folks feel that they will sort of keep thinking about or
I think the current struggle of guilt and balancing of loss and how do we prioritize our own losses, griefs, or wellness when we're watching, as we've been talking about, people in Gaza live stream genocide, people in Sudan being completely shut off until the horrors are already completed. I mean, around the world, as has been talked about it, that resonated a lot for me. That, especially the past 2 years, that I don't know how to reconcile even, having a cracker sometimes. So it is helpful to talk with people and just know we're not alone in some of those feelings. And I personally just try to just do like once if I start to feel that way, then it's just like, okay, just tackle the next hour and then the hour after that and then the day after that. And we do have to keep our own strength in order to stay in the movement and the resistance as well.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. Thank you for sharing that. And I think when it comes to grief and loss, with our own personal experiences and what we observe and hear and witness, what comes to mind is that I don't know if you ever heard of the grief model, but it sort of gets you into different stages of whether you have denial, agreement, anger. And I think thinking about the losses that you have experienced personally. what are ways that you feel that you can continue to hold those folks in mind, whether through the practices that you do with your work, or are there some quiet moments that you can take, or what part of their legacy do you think that you can continue to honor? And I think for global losses, I think having moments of solidarity, moments of silence, but then also thinking through uh, cultivating spaces where we can go beyond the remembrance, but then also what does action look like? Does that mean us, collectively supporting, family members, collectively promoting certain causes? So I think, yeah, further conversations, it can definitely be helpful. And I did see a comment about how do you prioritize finding balance? For me, I don't believe that balance exists because I'm like, just for my own personal work, but I think if balance is what you strive for, what does that look like for you? What do you feel that you can hold all at once, because I think there in different moments in our lives, we might be better at holding certain things a little bit higher than others. But I think balance is when you feel at peace or at least have reassurance that you're doing the best that you can and that you're able to meet your wellness needs while also being able to attend to other needs that are important for you in the moment. But I think we can strive for balance. But I think more so is how do we strive for I think if I could find a word, how do we strive for what speaks to us in the moment? I think I try to go with life moment by moment. I do make plans, but I also recognize that life can be unpredictable as well. So it's important to have grace when our balance falls short or when we're not able to attend to everything all at once. But with that said, thank you everyone for joining. I hope this was helpful and yeah, you get to read the learning brief and feel free to email me or anyone at COFEM if you have any questions. And I do want to thank everyone who contributed to the learning brief as well. So definitely shout out to all the folks who were part of the process, including to Joy, Leah, Priya, Toyin, Iris, and everyone else who edited this as well at COFEM. Well, I hope you all have a better sense of wellness and go about your days with more care and consideration. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.